US President Donald Trump declares his first 100 days back in office to be the most successful ever.
And that's according to many, many people.
But it hasn't been so tremendous for Taiwan. Taiwan's military has once again been denied a major US arms purchase. Can the money be better spent elsewhere? Somalia has banned Taiwanese passport holders from entering, and China might be behind the move. Plus, it's been 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. We take a look at Taiwan's almost forgotten role in that decades-long conflict. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. It's been 100 days since Donald Trump began his second term, and the US president has declared the period to be a great success. But polls here in Taiwan show that concerns are high over his economic policies and what they might mean for the country. Chris Gorin takes a closer look.
To mark 100 days of his second term, U.S. President Donald Trump holds a rally in the state of Michigan.
And we're here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, and that's according to many, many people.
That may not include most American people, as several recent polls show his approval rate in the low 40s, among the lowest for any U.S. president in their first 100 days. The discontent being felt in Taiwan as well. Only 33% of Taiwanese viewed the U.S. positively, according to a recent poll published by Brookings, a 20% drop from last July. The main driver of discontent? Tariffs. Trump has paused many of his global tariffs, including a 32% levy on most Taiwanese goods. But the U.S. is still threatening targeted tariffs on chips and electronics, Taiwan's key exports. That's despite Taiwanese chip giant TSMC pledging a record $165 billion investment in Arizona, the largest foreign investment in U.S. history. According to Taiwanese Public Opinion Foundation, nearly 82% of Taiwan's public considered Trump's tariffs unreasonable.
I think this is because of the tariff, right? The tariff toward Taiwan is so high that it makes people believe that it is punishing Taiwan. So I think there are reasons for ordinary people to doubt whether U.S. is reliable.
The new Trump administration has made some waves with its public Taiwan policies. In February, a webpage describing the U.S. policy towards Taiwan removed language stating that the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence, while adding a sentence that any solution must be acceptable on both sides of the strait.
It basically suggests that Beijing has a say in Taiwan's future, right? So it is hard to tell what exactly is the U.S. position right now in Taiwan Strait.
Meanwhile, China's military, the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, is continuing to put pressure on Taiwan, where U.S. arms sales have not been halted, but no major new deals have been announced. The U.S. has kept a 145% tariff on Chinese goods, sparking fears of a long-term trade war between the world's two largest economies. While the trade war could cause economic stress for both the U.S. and China, some say it could also have an unintended consequence.
I believe that economic stress and risk of social stability in China would make it less likely that Xi Jinping would use force against Taiwan, not more likely. That doesn't mean that PLA exercises would stop or that the rhetoric would change, the threats, all of the cyber attacks against Taiwan, the preparations would continue.
Despite the tensions, there may yet be hope for U.S.-Taiwan relations.
But I think that the U.S.-Taiwan relationship is likely to remain strong because it is very much in American interests to keep the bilateral relationship strong and to continue to develop those relations, whether they be in the economic, the diplomatic, or the military realm.
With tariff threats still hanging over the global economy, it appears that the only certainty about Trump's next 100 days is yet more uncertainty. Delphine Chen and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Amid growing regional tensions, Taiwan's military is defending how it chooses its weapons, saying strategy drives its decisions. This follows reports that a recent arms purchase request was turned down by the United States. Jaime Ocon explains what's behind the denial and what it means for Taiwan's defense.
Taiwan's military is looking to spend big on its defense. Specifically on two major US-made systems, MH-60 Seahawk anti-submarine helicopters and E-2D early warning aircraft. Both of these systems are some of the most advanced of their kind. But according to local news outlet Up Media, Taiwan's defense ministry was denied these aircraft multiple times, leaving the military here searching for alternatives.
任何有助提升战力的武器装备，我们都会透过各项的会议，与美来做这个意见的交换。
Reports say that the United States, which is Taiwan's largest provider of weapons, declined the sale because the requested aircraft were not in line with an asymmetric strategy. This means using cheaper systems that are highly mobile, lethal, and easier to maintain. The Navy had previously tried to buy the Seahawk helicopters in 2015 and 2022, but failed due to similar issues and high costs. Taiwan says the helicopters would boost maritime surveillance.
反潜直升机当然具备的机动，它可以大范围的搜索。那这个能力跟需求，海军是有的。那有关新的直升机的筹获，或是现役机种的后续的可能的性能提升，整个这个整体的规划，那目前我们都在整体的评估作业之中。
Taiwan already has older, similar versions of both the plane and the helicopter. But many observers say that given the size of the threat from China's military, Taiwan should not try to compete in the quantity of systems. That's because of a concern that many expensive systems like tanks, fighter jets, and warships might not survive in a conflict. Instead, experts say Taiwan should try to balance its military arsenal.
I think mostly asymmetry is the way to go. I've heard from policy wonks across Taiwan is having some, not all, of the big platforms makes it easier when dealing with the day-to-day gray zone coercion. I don't necessarily think telling the Taiwanese not to have every sort of high-level platform is wise. I think it should be done in parallel with the cheaper autonomous weapons that are very low cost.
Taiwan's defense minister says the country is embracing an asymmetric strategy, but seeing what's actually on the military's wish list makes it difficult to believe. Devin Tai and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
President Lai Ching-te has promoted several high-ranking military officers. Lai thanked new major and lieutenant generals for their service and reminded them of threats abroad and at home.
当前国际地缘政治形势变化快速，台湾更面临着威权主义的扩张所带来的威胁。除了日益增强的灰色地带侵扰，中共也不断利用各种渗透行为，意图窃取我们的国防机密，破坏国家安全。
Taiwan's armed forces have seen an uptick in spying cases in recent years, with several active duty and retired military personnel selling secrets to China. The president last month called for a crackdown on Chinese infiltration of the military and for bringing back military tribunals for those caught spying. At the ceremony on Wednesday, Defense Ministry spokesperson Sun Lifang was promoted to Lieutenant General, one of the highest ranks in the army. Sun was also promoted to head the Defense Ministry's Administration Office, leading the ministry's public communications.
我的母亲在过世之前，还在提醒我，要对国家忠诚，要做事情，要认真的去做事情，要去尽自己的本分。那这一些，我相信是在军旅生涯的历练过程当中，对我的影响是非常大。
President Lai also credited Sun with improving the Army's public image during his tenure as spokesperson. April 30th marks 50 years since the fall of Saigon and the end of the Vietnam War. While the impact on Vietnam and the United States is well documented, Taiwan's role in the war is little known. Chris Gorin reports on how the two countries' histories are connected.
April 30th, 1975. A final standoff in Saigon, just before communist North Vietnamese forces claim victory. It's been 50 years since the last U.S. helicopters took off from its embassy in Saigon, leaving behind many, and marking an end to 2 decades of U.S. military involvement in Vietnam. More than 3 million Vietnamese were killed, and nearly 60,000 U.S. soldiers died in the conflict. Part of the U.S.'s global war against communism that left no country in the region unaffected, including Taiwan. The war pitted the Soviet and China-backed North against the U.S.-backed South. For Taiwan's leader Chiang Kai-shek, South Vietnam was a natural ally, both fighting for survival against communist foes. Leaders from the two countries often visited each other and maintained strong economic ties.
One significant aspect is that the two countries were large trading partners to each other. And this is very significant for Taiwan in their early stage of industrialization. At the peak of the Vietnam War, Taiwan's export to Vietnam, South Vietnam, were around 15%.
While Taiwan never openly participated in the fighting, they provided military assistance and training to South Vietnam. Sometimes there was more direct help. In 1964, 17 commandos from Taiwan were reportedly captured during covert operations in North Vietnam. Taiwan was also critical for the U.S. military, as an official location for troops on leave and as a transit location to and from Vietnam. Thousands of U.S. troops were stationed in Taiwan throughout the war, officially serving as trainers and advisors.
The battle against communism must be joined in Southeast Asia with strength and determination to achieve success there. Or the United States inevitably must surrender the Pacific and take up our defenses on our own shores. Asian communism is comprised and contained by the maintenance of free nations on the subcontinent. Without this inhibitory influence, the island outposts, Philippines, Japan, Taiwan, have no security, and the vast Pacific becomes a Red Sea.
U.S. forces would remain in Taiwan until their full withdrawal in 1979. Taiwan sometimes paid a price for its involvement. In 1967, Taiwan's embassy in Saigon was destroyed by a car bomb. The attack left at least 22 people injured. As the war turned against the U.S. and South Vietnam, its president, Nguyen Van Thieu, continued to make visits to Taiwan in 1969 and 1973. But eventually, he could fight no more. In April 1975, Thieu resigned as president and fled the country, and his first destination was Taipei. These photos, dated just 2 days after the fall of Saigon, show the now former President Thieu meeting with Taiwan's interim president Yan Jiagan, future president Jiang Jingguo, and paying respects to Jiang's father, Chiang Kai-shek, who had died just weeks earlier. Thieu would spend the rest of his life in exile in the UK and US. The war's end led to a refugee crisis. Often referred to as boat people, most refugees fled to neighboring countries such as Laos, Thailand, and Malaysia as they waited to move on.
Of course, I want to get to Australia, or US, or Canadian, where I think I can make my life better. I have risked my life for freedom.
Some refugees landed on Taiwan's territory. More than 2,000 passed through a refugee camp set up in its outlying Penghu Islands. A small number stayed, forming the roots of the Vietnamese community in Taiwan.
So at that time, there were around 200 people who cannot get the permission to move to any countries at all. Nobody wants them. So in the end, Taiwanese government allowed them to stay Taiwan.
If you go to some Vietnamese restaurants here in Taipei, especially in the Mu Cha area, you are likely to end up in mixing with some former refugees who used to live in Panghua Island.
Taiwan normalized relations with communist Vietnam in 1992, 3 years before the U.S. did the same. 50 years later, Ho Chi Minh City stands where Saigon once fell. Its nearby battlefields, now tourist attractions. Vietnam, the U.S., and Taiwan all continue to have strong economic and cultural ties. But the legacy of the war and Taiwan's role in it remains woven into history. Klein Wong and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, pilgrims traveling on foot across Taiwan encounter a goddess. Stay tuned as TaiwanPlus joins the biggest religious event in the country.
Thank you for sharing our passion for food and Taiwan. Veggie Island explores the vibrant world of plant-based cuisine.
This is amazing.
While Taiwan on the Rocks uncovers the stories and craftsmanship behind every sip.
Have you ever tried Taiwanese beer?
Are you ready to taste even more of Taiwan?
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, follow TaiwanPlus on socials. Pika!
Welcome back, you're watching TaiwanPlus News. Taiwan is accusing China of being behind Somalia's decision to ban Taiwanese travellers to the country. Rees reports.
The African nation of Somalia has banned Taiwanese passport holders from entering the country. Taipei says it's Beijing's latest attempt to isolate Taiwan from the international community. The Foreign Affairs Ministry is protesting Somalia's decision, requesting they immediately reverse it. The Somali government said the ban was in accordance with a 1971 UN resolution that recognizes the PRC as the only legitimate representative of China to the United Nations, as opposed to the Republic of China, the official name of Taiwan. But Taiwan says it's a misinterpretation.
对于索马利亚政府错误解释联合国大会第2758号决议，并与所谓一个中国原则挂钩，图谋制造台湾隶属于中华人民共和国的假象。 外交部也予以严正驳斥，并强烈谴责。
Taiwan is accusing China of coercing other countries to limit the freedoms of Taiwanese passport holders through things like travel restrictions. It's a newer tactic by Beijing and comes in addition to its attempts to poach Taiwan's few remaining official diplomatic allies, of which only 12 remain, having most recently lost Nauru in 2024. In reality, the impact of Somalia's ban isn't going to be huge. There aren't waves of Taiwanese tourists rushing there. But it's considered part of China's wider grey zone warfare. It's Beijing trying to chip away at Taiwan's sovereignty over time and isolate it diplomatically, often starting with financial incentives for smaller countries, particularly in Africa, where China has been trying to grow its influence. Currently, most countries, over 160, let Taiwanese passport holders in with preferential visa arrangements, essentially little to no visa application, though that number has gone down a few in recent years, after a handful of countries cancelled such treatment, which Taiwan's foreign ministry said could be the result of pressure from China. Still, Taiwan's passport remains one of the strongest in Asia, and still much stronger than China's. Karma Xu and Rees for TaiwanPlus.
An official from Geelong in northern Taiwan has admitted to abusing his power to help recall efforts against city councillors from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. Geelong's mayor, a member of the opposition Kuomintang, says he will respect the judicial process in the case of the official concerned.
伪造文书罪，一般来说是5年以下，在刑法理论上不能算是重罪，所以我希望被侦查对象最好都能够把事情来讲清楚。
The head of Geelong's Civil Affairs Department, Zhang Yuanxiang, admitted to prosecutors that he unlawfully gathered voters' personal information for recall petitions. Zhang was later released on bail, while 2 other KMT-related recall campaigners were held incommunicado. One of the DPP city councillors targeted by the recall campaigns said the Geelong mayor owes the public an explanation.
他竟然没有一句话说 我很愤怒啊！我从早上愤怒到现在啊，我都不知道啊。他竟然连这个都没讲。所以谢国良市长，你到底对这个案子知道了多少？我希望市长，你能够真的面对媒体，正面的回应。
This is the latest development in a widening investigation into recall petition forgery. Beijing has lodged a complaint with the Philippines ambassador over what it calls negative moves related to Taiwan and security. The statement from China's foreign ministry did not elaborate further. This comes as the US and Philippines hold their largest ever annual joint military exercises in the region. Some of the drills simulate full-scale battles with China. Pakistan's information minister says there is, quote, credible intelligence that India may launch an attack within the next 2 days. In a video posted to X, Minister Atullah Tarar said that rising tensions between the two countries could soon lead to a military strike. This follows a deadly attack last week in Indian-administered Kashmir that killed 26 people. India has accused Pakistan of being involved in the attack, while Pakistan denies any involvement. The two countries have long clashed over political and ethnic divisions, which have heightened since the attack. Both sides have now cancelled visas, closed their largest border crossing, and India has suspended a key water treaty that millions of people rely on. Mazu, goddess of the sea, is Taiwan's most widely worshipped folk deity. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people participate in a massive religious pilgrimage in her honour. In the third part of our series on the pilgrimage, we'll see the emotional moment when one group of pilgrims crosses paths with Mazu herself. Cadence Quaranta reports.
It's believed that Mazu makes this pilgrimage every year so that she can celebrate her birthday with the Mazu at Fengtian Temple in Jiayi, which is the farthest point of the journey. In Taiwanese Taoism, one god can have many spirits with different personalities. The Fengtian Mazu and Zhenlan Mazu are said to be sisters. When they arrive, the 3 Mazu statues that have ridden all the way from Zhenlan Temple are taken out of their sedan chair and passed person to person up to where the Fengtian Mazu is sitting. Here, the sisters are reunited, the small Zhenlan Mazu statues sitting in front and the Fengtian Mazu behind them. The next day, huge crowds gather for what is effectively a massive birthday party for the goddess. Mazu is the most widely worshipped god in Taiwan, and because of her importance to Taiwanese people, she's often involved in many parts of society here. Politicians will participate in events at Mazu temples to win votes or gain popularity, with some temples known to lean towards one party or another. Activists bring Mazu statues to anti-nuclear and anti-pollution protests. The goddess has even been used by China as a tool in their efforts to take Taiwan, which they consider part of their territory.
大陆的领导人呢，有一个想法说，我们可以利用民间信仰来统战台湾。我借着民间信仰来拉拢台湾人的民心，看你们能不能回来大陆。台湾经过这么20多年政党轮替哈。 大陆那一招不怎么管用了。
But most of these pilgrims are not here for politics. They're here because of their devotion to the goddess. For many in the beginner group, the highlight of the pilgrimage is the day after the birthday party, because this is the day they may have a chance to get close to Mazu's sedan chair.
对，我们等妈祖1天了，今天就最期待看到妈祖的时候。
哦，我现在很嗨耶，很快乐。我们要冲到正位宫去，
就是钻教底啊。
After walking ahead of her for most of the trip, the group has decided to wait for Mazu on their way back up north, coming together in Xizhou, where early in the morning they anticipate smaller crowds.
我们爬过去，就感觉有一股那个力量在我们身上，身上不好的运气，透过钻教底把它带走。
妈祖就很像我们的母亲一样啊，好，那种钻教底也好像被妈妈拥抱一样啊。
是你能够扛到轿子，然后可以拿到凉伞啊，还有这个扇子，就会比较幸运啊。对，可以幸运，然后可以祈福嘛。对啊，所以我们才会今天等了那么久。就等这个机会，所以很开心，我今天有拿到。
我跟妈祖说生日快乐啊！
当你有信仰，而你在妈祖的銮轿旁边，你会有一种莫名的一种感觉，很亲近。对，你可以把自己的心里的话跟他说。
Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus for part 4 in our series on the annual Dajia Mazu pilgrimage. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.